Welcome guys, welcome to part 2 of doing the Ridgeway this way from Goring. This is the railway bridge, which you wouldn't recognise from the last video because I forgot to film like the last 3 hours of it. But this time, we are now going this way, into the town, and all the way to the historic site of Avebury. The Ridgeway is an Iron Age track crossing southern England from Ivanhoe Beacon in Buckinghamshire to Avebury in Wiltshire, and it's supposedly the oldest road in Europe. Today I started in the delightful village of Goring in Oxfordshire for 2 minutes. Because when you cross the Thames, you enter Streatley, which is in Berkshire. So, I'm quite over an hour in now. I've been cycling past loads of walkers. There seems to be some big event going on, which is kind of annoying, but almost everybody's been very polite about it. But anyway, just sort of looking around all this lovely countryside. Amongst it all is a Didcot power station. The first place I stopped with Wantage somewhere in the valley below was the Lord Wantage monument, built in honour of Robert Lloyd Lindsay, also known as Lord Wantage, who was the town's MP during the Victorian era and was a great benefactor for the town. So if you can see behind me there, sort of in the bowl there, bloody steep. I am so happy the path is here. The gradient is a little shallower. I mean, there's uphill in a minute, but nowhere near as horrid as the gradients in the bowl there. You know, maybe I should have done this on a moped. Somebody said the bike was cheating because of this walk that's going on. But, I mean, if I'm cheating on this, he is mega cheating. I mean, it's probably death penalty. So, if you look past the helmet hair, you will see this amazing wildflower meadow. But is it as such? It's actually the remains of an Iron Age hill fort called Uppington Castle, which is just off the Ridgeway. This was supposedly built 8th century BC by the Iron Age people of Great Britain. And whilst there are no traces of buildings, there were traces of huts and pottery and animal bones. So it is presumed people lived in here and there was like a village community. Even in Roman times, they found Roman pottery in these raised mounds. You can see that go around. But as time went on, the thing became lost to history, covered up, until the 90s when it was re-excavated. And now it's full of beautiful wildflowers. And just the other side of the hill to the hill fort, supposedly linked to it, if you can just see it there, there's a faint white line. That is one of the many chalk horses that we have on chalk hills up and down the country, and supposedly gives its name to this district. All this district behind me, all going north of here, is called the Vale of the White Horse. It used to be in Berkshire, now it's in Oxfordshire, and I presume it's named after this horse on a hill. I've seen aerial viewings of it. They are much better. Considering the angle of the hill, I doubt even on that little mound there, the view is that good. But if you want to see one of these, there are quite a few dotted across the south of England. I know. So, looking at these ramparts, not only are they pretty steep and got a little moat down there, but this path is pretty narrow. I can just about fit me and my bike going along it. But just stumbled across some horse poo. How the hell did you get a horse? I feel like the only horse that could actually fit up here would be a little pony, and you sure as hell are not riding that unless it's like a 4-year-old. So I wonder how that happened. Also, just looking from here, there is such a contrast. Like here, the sky is so thick and grey, and you can see it's raining further south, but then suddenly it's like God is trying to speak to us, and there's this massive, not just bright, but incredibly bright patch that's shining down on, it's actually shining down on where I'll be heading tomorrow. That's towards Avebury. As you go further around to where Swindon is, it gets a bit grey again, but not as grey as it is heading down to the coast. Which, as someone from the coast, from Portsmouth, is a bit rude. Anyway, it's just weather. It's such a contrast, and it made some beautiful shadows in the hills the other side. Also, for anyone who's a bit of a history buff like me, I'm filming this on Saturday the 13th of July. Yesterday, 12th of July, is the anniversary of the official foundation of... Oh, there's more dog horse crap. Of the foundation of England, which happened all the way back in the 10th century. But I find it strange how the day after that, I end up at historical sites which predate England by longer than England has been around. This was built almost 2 millennia before England was consolidated into one country, and still, by then, over a millennia before the Saxons invaded. They go proper back in time, as we were at Avebury. So, I have locked up the bike. I'm not walking with it, I'm just walking with my bag to go and see a Neolithic stone monument. I guess like Stonehenge, but this one's definitely going to be a little smaller, and there it is. There it is. Within the trees. Oh, this is so beautiful and serene. I mean, you're probably banned from wild camping here, but I would love to. So I'm now at the other end of it. It's very long and thin this end, slightly thicker at the end with the little cave. But this thing predates Stonehenge. I don't think by many years, but it's over 5,500 years old, but has had burials in it from many periods over Britain's history, from the Neolithics in 4,500 BC, which I think is when Stonehenge was also built, up to Saxon times. And I think about this point of the mound, which is about halfway between tip to toe, this is where the original burials were from 5,500 years ago. And this bit at the end that's got all the grand stones were where the more modern burials happened, which were excavated in the 60s. So I'm now sat in what was behind me there, that big stone, the portal into the tomb. And then there's like these little side rooms. They're not that big. They're just little cabins you could hide in, I guess. I'm now atop the mound, and there are these petals and ash, which I presume would have been a pagan ritual carried out here, because of course everyone in Europe before about the 3rd century Christian era was pagan. And there are still a lot of pagans in the country here in Britain today, and I follow a few, and they perform rituals like this at ancient monuments quite often. And I think I'm not a pagan myself, but it's fantastic that these places are still kept alive in like proper spirit, not just in a historical context. So I'm almost in Swindon. I'm in a little hamlet called Foxhill. Well, the only thing they seem to have is this Indian restaurant. There were all these flags I was going past, and I thought maybe it was something to do with the football, but a lot of European countries were missing. So it's the Union flag, the 3 home nations, so not including Northern Ireland. There you've got the Republic of Ireland, and then suddenly there you've got India. And then I looked at the building, I realised it's a curry house. That obviously loves the flags of Britain more than their native flag. But I mean, you do you. Firstly, this is a new level of helmet, helmet hair. But also, we've been almost untouched by civilization all day. I haven't seen a single railway since getting off the train in Goring, and this is the first time I've seen one of these bloody monstrosities. I haven't crossed. It's been so rural and isolated today. Whoa, that's a big lorry. Yeah, I've barely seen any main roads until now, and also the Ridgeway itself is on a road at that curry house. Just before then, we joined the road. And I will get back onto a path today because, well, I'm almost done. Because I'm going to where this motorway leads. Not South Wales, just Swindon. So first off, if you didn't know, these signposts, they're made of recycled plastic, but also it shows the Ridgeway going up there. I'm going the other way. I'm going down there to go to Swindon, and I will rejoin the Ridgeway tomorrow, but in a village called Chiseldon, slightly further down, because just easier. As for my thoughts on today, you'd thought going along with a massive walking group / running group, some of them were running, some of them were walking, it would be a bit annoying, but everyone was so polite about responding to my bell if they heard it. Some people had headphones in, or I saw a couple of people with hearing aids. Sometimes I'm also a runner and a walker, and sometimes you just need to be listening to something to get a move on, so don't blame them at all. But when they eventually did hear it, they would move out the way. Everyone was very polite, and also all their friends and family coming to the bits where the Ridgeway crossed the road to cheer them on, everyone joking about how I was cheating. I was merely being resourceful. Well, I just loved it. I love the camaraderie, even though I kind of wasn't a part of it. And I have to give a really special shout out to the water team at the pit stop 5, who very, very kindly gave me some water after I was very, very thirsty. You guys are legends. Thank you so much. But yeah, as for today, it's been a cracking day. Not just the camaraderie and the friendliness, but also the history I've learned. I saw the White Horse, I saw an old Iron Age fortification, and a Neolithic burial mound. Overall, a brilliant day. Hi guys, and welcome to day 2. I'm not quite at the Ridgeway yet. It's a little south of here, but I'm in a small village called Chiseldon, which right here used to have a train station. This was a rail line that went from Swindon down to Marlborough and then Salisbury, and then connected onto the still open line down to Southampton. And also from Swindon went further north to connect with the Midlands. This section of the line from Swindon to Salisbury is now closed, as you can see here. And of course I would reopen it. But I'm a rail nerd. I love finding old train stations and anything about trains. But anyway, on to the Ridgeway, which I'm only about 10 minutes away from. So we're now on the Ridgeway. Well, near it, and we're by a trig point, which can only mean one thing. We're at another highest point, which also means there's another Iron Age hill fort. This is Liddington Hill Fort, built around the same time as Uffington. So I'm now making my way around the ramparts, which supposedly weren't fully completed until Saxon times, which is a little strange because from archaeological digs done around here, it suggested this place was deserted by the 5th century BC, probably because the hill to walk up it is so steep and Uffington's just down the road. But there is a possibility of Roman activity here, although unlikely any since. I imagine if Saxons completed the rampart, maybe it was as a defensive mechanism for a battle had here. But now as you look from the north of the mound, a very different story. You can see modern Britain with its motorway and the massive industrial city of Swindon. A very notable feature about this hill fort, very different from the other one, is it has much steeper and I think slightly taller ramparts. It's got two. I'm in like the moat section, but it's double fortified. So maybe, I don't know, maybe it was deserted because wars became less frequent by the 5th century BC, and so they were perfectly fine in Uffington with the much shallower ramparts. This is so much nicer than yesterday. It's so far, all bits of the Ridgeway I've done today have been paved, and it's really quiet roads like this. It's so lovely. The smooth tarmac road didn't last very long. We're on gravel again with lots of potholes, and over there is a shooting range, so all I can hear is guns going off. So another few miles, another hill fort, but this is by far the most prominent, probably the biggest I've come across. There's archaeological evidence that there were 40 Iron Age huts inside this hill fort. At its peak, this is Barbury, and it's been in use, in a way, always. It was of course built as an Iron Age fort. It was apparently still used during the Roman times, but I think it was more a Celtic Britain a settlement for Celtic Britons more so, and the Romans lived in whatever Roman town is near here. I don't think we're that far from Bath or Silchester. Anyway, this thing is pretty massive, and so are its ramparts. It has two again, both there. I'm on top of one, which is very tall and steep, and then we've got the other one behind me. And as I said, it was in constant use. It was used, I think, to store ammunition during World War II. And now it is a country park, so it's just used by people visiting, such as me. So I'm at the last Ridgeway landmark until Avebury. This is the Hackpen chalk horse. And unlike usual chalk horses, which have been around since the Iron Age, like the Ridgeway and the hill forts themselves, this was done in the Victorian, well, at the very, very beginning of the Victorian era, to mark the coronation of what seemed to be our most miserable looking queen, Queen Victoria. We've got a lovely little horse carved out for her that's really difficult to see whilst going around it. I guess you get a better view driving up that road. But they did sort of go for the dimensions. That's its mouth and nose and everything else. It's even got a little green eye, some ears, big long neck, and then these rather skadiddly legs. I made it. I made it to Avebury, among the stone circle, which very unfortunately does have a main road going through it. But still lots of stone, still very intact. I think this is the quadrant that is the most intact. It's got almost every stone within it. And there's a whole village here. There's a pub, there's a church, there's shops. There's everything. The stones sit among grazing grounds, so you're constantly watching out for sheep and their droppings. But if you look closely, you see buildings. Inside the stone circle is a whole village with a pub, some shops, a church, and a manor house, which even has an old dovecot. As with all the hill forts and Iron Age settlements I've seen these past 2 days, yep, steep embankments and a large rampart. Now, supposedly one of these stones sings if you tap it. I'm yet to find it. I've tapped a few to no avail. The only singing I'm hearing is sheep. This field's full of them, and another one of the fields has got grazing sheep in it. But this one's got like 300, so you're constantly watching out for sheep shit. It may have been this stone behind me. I remember in the video I watched, the singer wasn't that good. It's got loads of holes in it, so I imagine it being echoey, but it's not. I found it. The milk bot. I'm not actually gonna get any because I've had, it was a couple of nights ago, I had a slightly ropey tummy, so best not to drink milk. But like, you can even flavour it. It looks like vodka and rum shots, but like it goes from normal chocolate, banana, white chocolate, strawberry to honeycomb, candy floss. My weakness, and bloody hell, cream egg. So I've got to film an outro in Avebury, so I thought I'd film it here at a point on the Ridgeway on the complete other end, just up there in the distance behind all them trees is Avebury Beacon, where I started last year. And just being here, knowing that I've now gone the full length, I'm so happy I did, especially that second bit. I mean, I went through some beautiful places on the first bit coming round here, and I've been very lucky to live on the boat around here for a few weeks. But that second part was even better, going past all the white horses and hill forts and like almost 3,000 years old history, and eventually making it to Avebury with all the stones and that lovely little village. It has overall been a fantastic journey. I've been Jack the Train Traveller, and I'll see you in the next one.